first, let's get to Josh Lipton with more on AMD's quarter. Josh.
So, Melissa, I just caught up with RBC's Mitch Steves. He's an AMD bull. I wanted his take on the print. He calls this a monster beat and raise. Nothing negative in the print. Mitch says that he can see huge raise to the full year to 32% growth. That's up from 25% growth. Gross margins also expected to expand. That's due to those continued strength in server chips. Mitch saying AMD clearly gaining share on Intel. Just talking more about the report and the guidance. Q3 guidance are calling for about $2.55 billion. That is better than expected. The street was closer to $2.3 billion. They do expect 22 revenue to grow now about 32%. They call out strength in PC gaming and data center products. As for the two big segments in the quarter, computing and graphics segment, $1.37 billion. That would include chips for PCs and graphics chips for gaming. Then there's the enterprise, embedded, and semi-custom division. That was better than expected, $565 million. That includes chips for the data center and also chips for game consoles. And by the way, tomorrow morning, must-see TV, AMD CEO Lisa Su will be on CNBC to talk more about this print. Melissa, back to you.
Thank you very much, Josh Lipton. This was an extraordinary quarter, especially given the high expectations going into this quarter, the belief already that AMD was gaining market share over Intel, and now the confirmation, Pete Najarian. What do you do with an 11% advance in the after-hour session?
I think you got to trim some. I actually own some calls, Mel, and we've seen nothing but call activity in there since actually going back to June and July, and obviously going right up into the print. As a matter of fact, just yesterday, huge option activity once again coming in there. But I think when you get this kind of a move, the great news that they gave, which is great news, I think I'd want to trim some of that. Matter of fact, I might take it all off tomorrow fairly early in the day, and then just be very, very patient to see when and if we get another pullback for some more opportunities. But they did everything right, Mel. Lisa Su has been running this like an absolute machine, and it's been absolutely phenomenal to watch how they've taken apart Intel and how Intel, it's unbelievable to me still that they went off and they had those delays that they had. That keeps them on the sidelines for another couple of years from the sounds of it. So if that's the case, Lisa Su and AMD will absolutely be taking market share, I think, quarter after quarter after quarter going forward. Now you'd ask, well, why would you take off your position? Only because of the fact that this is a huge spike. The stock's already made a big run into this. And I think oftentimes you get that big pop, and then eventually you start to kind of coast for a while and then maybe pull back, and I think there'll be opportunities in the future.
Your take on AMD, Guy?
Unbelievable quarter. I think Pete's spot on with this one. So it's interesting, Lisa Su's going to be on again tomorrow morning. You call last quarter wasn't nearly as great a quarter, and the stock, I think, closed at 54, traded down to 50. And remember, we talked about that being a huge opportunity to get long the name, and that proved to be correct. Now, I will say categorically, last night I said you take earnings into this number, the stocks run too fast. So this overshoot to me is unexpected. The quarter is remarkable. What Josh didn't mention was operating margins were over 12%. That's up from 7% this quarter last year. So it is a ridiculous quarter in all facets. You remember AMD used to just exist so Intel wouldn't be a monopoly. So AMD's come a long way. But to Pete's point again, this stock has given you opportunities to buy it on sell-offs and to sell it when the thing spikes, and I think this is one of those spikes you sell into and take profits.
It is amazing, the reversal of fortune, so to speak, when it comes to AMD and Intel. I mean, just a couple of years ago, it was the reverse in terms of how investors regarded these two stocks, Tim.
Well, but so think about the premium that AMD now trades to Intel. I think this is at a place where this is overdone. I realize Intel has shot themselves in the foot on the 7-nanometer, the need to go out there on foundries. AMD's gained, TSM's gained, Samsung's gained, but you have a case here where AMD now trades at 5 times the multiple of Intel. At what point have you not priced in? Yeah, I get CPU, I get GPU. You've also priced this out 2 to 3 years, which is the same thing we talked about with TSM. At this point now, with these multiples, and I know people have said this for the last 3 years with AMD, and it's only gone higher, I'm an owner of Intel over AMD. I would have said that 3 weeks ago, though, but I still think after these moves we've had, and they've been so extraordinary, I don't know if anyone's doing a pair trade on this one. I'd rather own Intel.
Okay. self would you rather. So Dan, I'll toss it over to you, but I'll throw in a third option, and that is Taiwan Semiconductor. We discussed this yesterday off this big Credit Suisse upgrade. John Roque from Wolf Research, the technician there, came out today with a chart on TSM. He said it looks great because of the long base that it's been building, and now it's moving off that base. Dan, what do you think of Taiwan Semi?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I mean, I think these guys kind of nailed the whole trade here. I mean, you know, Intel is being weighed down by these foundries. They're going to ultimately, I wouldn't be surprised if you didn't see some activists get involved in Intel and try to move them away from to building their own chips. This has obviously worked very well for AMD. It's helped them take share, especially as they've gotten a lead now in a couple of these areas. I'll just mention this, you know, about this sales growth. I mean, when you think about Intel's fine, their sales are going to be flattish to up a little bit. You know, AMD's sales are still only about 15% of Intel's total here. So I agree with Tim on the valuation standpoint. They may continue to take share for the next year or so. When they get the 7 nanometer going properly, you know, you're going to see that share shift move back some degree. I think Intel trading at 11 times with sales and earnings expected to be just down single-digit percentages, it probably lines up pretty well. And then one last point, you know, as far as AMD is concerned, I mean, the stock I think what's his name said this. What's his name out there in Minnesota?
Guy,
yeah,
Tim,
I'm totally
Pete.
spacing. Oh, Pete. The stock has rallied 25% into the print here. There you go. I miss you, buddy. I'm sorry. I haven't seen you in like 7 months or something like that. You know, it rallied into the print, right? And so I think these guys have it right. I think it probably sets up as a good Intel long, AMD short, Taiwan Semi run too far too fast. Let that settle in a little bit.
So, Pete, since you're the one getting out of your AMD position on the back of earnings, what are you putting that money into if you had to pick in the chip space?
Probably look more towards Micron. And I got to tell you guys, the reason I would actually steer clear still of Intel is the reason it's trading at the multiple that it's trading is because they continue to disappoint. And this was another disappointment. And the fact that they're pushing this out for maybe a couple of years, guys, this is really something that's a huge stumble. This is a new CEO, newer CEO, whose job it was to make sure that Intel is not only the Intel that's going to beat AMD, but maybe even compete with NVIDIA and the rest of them. Well, right now he can't even compete with AMD, so I see problems here. I thought long ago Navin Shenoy was the guy who should have taken over because of the data center, and it's exactly what Microsoft did. They didn't make that decision, and unfortunately I think they're seeing what's happening right now, and I don't know, guys, whether or not we're going to see them start to grow into a bigger multiple. I just don't know that they can do that. They've stumbled too many times, and at some point in time, they might be in a languished spot like AMD was for so many years. They might be the new AMD, and AMD's taken over as Intel.
Yeah, it may be a little bit of a show-me stock at this point.